There is a decision millions of Americans make at age 62 that feels financially responsible in the moment but quietly costs them over $100,000 by the time they reach their 80s. And the heartbreaking part is, most people never realize they made a mistake until it is far too late to fix it. They look at their Social Security statement, they see that monthly number, and they think to themselves, why would I wait 5 more years when I could start collecting right now? It makes perfect sense. You have worked your entire life. You paid into the system with every single paycheck for 40 years, and now the government is offering you money starting at 62. Why wouldn't you take it? Here is why. Because that decision to claim early can reduce your monthly benefit by as much as 30% for the rest of your life. And if you are married, it can cut your spouse's survivor benefit by that same 30% after you are gone. We are not talking about pocket change. We are talking about a difference that compounds year after year after year until it reaches 6 figures. Now, before you think I am here to lecture you about waiting until 70, let me be very clear. I am not. There are plenty of situations where claiming at 62 is absolutely the right move. I have advised clients to do exactly that hundreds of times. But what I am going to show you today is how you can retire in your early 60s, live comfortably, and still delay Social Security long enough to lock in a benefit that is 30 to 40% higher than what you would get if you filed the day you turned 62. That is the secret. You do not have to choose between retiring early and maximizing your Social Security. You can have both, but it requires a specific strategy that most people have never heard of. And that is what we are covering today. In this video, I am going to walk you through exactly how this works. I am going to show you 3 proven strategies that allow you to retire before 67 without touching your Social Security. I am going to explain the math behind delayed retirement credits in plain English so you understand exactly how much more money you stand to gain. And I am going to give you a step-by-step plan you can start implementing this week, whether you are 55 or 64, whether you have $200,000 saved or $2 million. But first, let me tell you about a client of mine named Richard. Richard came into my office in the spring of 2017. He was 61 years old, recently laid off from a manufacturing job he had held for 33 years, and he was exhausted. He had worked the second shift most of his adult life. His knees were shot, his back hurt every morning, and he told me flat out, "Hal, I am done. I cannot do this for 6 more years. I need to retire now." His Social Security statement showed that if he filed at 62, he would receive $1,400 a month. If he waited until his full retirement age of 66, that number jumped to $2,000. And if he waited until 70, it went all the way up to $2,640. Richard looked at those numbers and said, "I hear what you are saying about waiting, but I need money now. I cannot wait 8 years." And that is where most people get stuck. They think the only 2 options are file now and get money now, or wait and suffer in silence. But there is a third path. And it is the path Richard and I built together over the course of 3 meetings. We sat down and mapped out every dollar he had. He had $178,000 in his 401k. He had $22,000 in a savings account. He had no pension. His wife Linda was 59 and still working as an office manager, making $34,000 a year. She planned to work until 65. Richard's monthly expenses, not including Linda's income, came to about $3,200. That included his mortgage, utilities, car insurance, groceries, and a small buffer for the unexpected. Here is what we did. We created a bridge. We took a portion of his 401k and set up a systematic withdrawal plan that would give him $24,000 a year for 4 years. That comes out to $2,000 a month. Combined with Linda's income, they had enough to cover everything. The plan was simple. Richard would not touch Social Security until he turned 66. By waiting those 4 years, his monthly benefit jumped from $1,400 to $2,000. That is an extra $600 every single month for the rest of his life. Over 20 years, that is $144,000. And here is the part most people miss. When Richard passes away, Linda will receive his benefit as a survivor benefit if it is higher than her own. If Richard had filed at 62, Linda would be stuck with that reduced benefit for the rest of her life. By waiting until 66, Richard gave Linda a widow's benefit of $2,000 a month instead of $1,400. That is not just smart planning for Richard, that is love. Now let me be very clear about something. This strategy does not work for everyone. If you do not have savings, this does not apply. If you are in poor health, and your family history suggests you may not live into your 80s, filing early might make perfect sense. If you are struggling to pay rent right now, you are not in a position to delay. I am not here to shame anyone, but if you have even a modest amount saved, if you are in reasonably good health, and if you are looking at another 20 or 30 years of life, this math matters, and it matters more than most people realize. Let me walk you through how delayed retirement credits actually work, because this is one of the most misunderstood parts of Social Security. Your full retirement age is determined by the year you were born. If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. If you were born between 1954 and 1959, it is 66 plus a few months depending on your birth year. If you were born in 1953 or earlier, it is 66. You can claim as early as 62, but for every month you claim before your full retirement age, your benefit is reduced. The reduction is 0.5% per month for the first 36 months, and then 0.5% for every month beyond that. If your full retirement age is 67 and you file at 62, you are filing 60 months early. That works out to a 30% reduction. So if your full retirement age benefit is $2,000, you will get $1,400 instead. But here is where it gets interesting. For every month you delay past your full retirement age up until age 70, you earn delayed retirement credits. Those credits are worth 0.2% per month, which comes out to 8% per year. If your full retirement age is 67 and you wait until 70, that is 3 years of credits. 3 times 8 is 24%. So your $2,000 benefit becomes $2,480. And that increase is permanent. It is inflation adjusted every single year. It compounds over time. This is not a small bump. This is a foundational shift in your retirement income. Now here is the part that really matters for married couples. Social Security has a survivor benefit provision. When one spouse dies, the surviving spouse gets to keep the higher of the two benefits. Let us say you and your spouse are both receiving Social Security. You are getting $2,500. Your spouse is getting $1,200. When one of you passes away, the survivor does not keep both checks. The survivor keeps the higher check and loses the lower one. So if you pass away first, your spouse keeps your $2,500 benefit and loses their own $1,200 benefit. That means the household income drops by $1,200 a month, but the bills do not drop by that much. The mortgage does not cut itself in half. The property tax does not disappear. The cost of living for one person is not 50% of the cost for two. It is more like 70 to 80%. This is why maximizing the higher earner's benefit is so critical. If the higher earner files early and locks in a reduced benefit, that reduced benefit becomes the survivor benefit, and the surviving spouse, who is statistically more likely to be the wife, is stuck with that lower number for the rest of her life. I have seen widows in their 80s living on $1,300 a month because their husband filed at 62 30 years ago and nobody explained the long-term consequences. That is not a comfortable retirement. That is choosing between groceries and prescriptions. I want to give you another example. I had a couple come to see me in 2019. Their names were Tom and Susan. Tom was 64. Susan was 62. Tom had worked as an electrician for 41 years. Susan had worked part-time as a bookkeeper and stayed home with their kids for most of her career, so her Social Security benefit was small. Tom's full retirement age benefit was $2,300. Susan's was $900. Tom wanted to file immediately. He said, "Hal, I am tired. I want to enjoy my life while I still can. I do not want to wait until 70 and then drop dead at 72. I understood that. I have heard that argument 1,000 times, and I respect it. But I asked Tom one question. I said, Tom, if you pass away at 75, what is Susan going to live on? He looked at me. He had not thought about it. We did the math. If Tom filed at 64, his benefit would be reduced to about $2,000 due to filing early. When Tom died, Susan would receive $2,000 as a survivor benefit and lose her own $900 benefit. Total income, $2,000 a month. If Tom waited until 67 and filed at his full retirement age of $2,300, Susan would receive $2,300 as a survivor. If Tom waited until 70, his benefit would be $2,852 with delayed credits. Susan would receive $2,852 as a survivor. The difference between filing at 64 and waiting until 70 was $852 a month for Susan after Tom was gone. Over 20 years, that is $204,000. Tom and Susan walked out of my office and went home to think about it. 2 weeks later, they came back with a plan. Tom would work part-time for 2 more years doing side electrical jobs. They would live off Susan's small benefit, Tom's part-time income, and a portion of their savings. At 67, Tom would file for Social Security at his full retirement age. They gave up 3 years of early benefits to lock in a survivor benefit that would protect Susan for the rest of her life. That is not waiting to enjoy life. That is planning so the person you love does not spend her final years broke. Now, let me give you 3 strategies you can use starting this week to retire early without sacrificing your Social Security benefit. These are not theoretical. These are the exact strategies I have used with clients for 30 years. Strategy number 1 is the bridge strategy. This is what Richard used. You take a portion of your retirement savings and create a systematic withdrawal plan that covers your living expenses for 3 to 5 years. The goal is to bridge the gap between when you stop working and when you file for Social Security. Let us say you retire at 63 and your full retirement age is 67. You need 4 years of bridge income. If your annual expenses are $40,000 and your spouse is still working and covering half of that, you need $20,000 a year. That is $80,000 total. If you have $200,000 in your 401k, that is 40% of your savings, you still have $120,000 left. And by waiting until 67 instead of filing at 63, you increase your monthly benefit by roughly 25%. That extra benefit pays you back for the rest of your life. Strategy number 2 is the partial retirement strategy. You do not have to go from full-time work to zero overnight. You can step down, work part-time, do consulting, drive for a rideshare service. Anything that brings in $12,000 to $20,000 a year can dramatically reduce how much you need to pull from savings. I had a client named Barbara who retired from teaching at 63 but started tutoring students 3 afternoons a week. She made $15,000 a year. That income plus a small draw from her 403b allowed her to wait until 67 to file. She told me later it was the best decision she ever made because the tutoring kept her sharp and the delayed Social Security gave her peace of mind. Strategy number 3 is the spousal coordination strategy. If you are married, you need to think about your benefits as a household unit, not as 2 separate checks. The lower earner can file earlier while the higher earner delays. Let us say the husband's benefit at full retirement age is $2,500 and the wife's benefit is $1,200. The wife files at 62 and starts collecting a reduced benefit of about $840. That income helps cover expenses while the husband delays until 70. At 70, the husband files and locks in a benefit of $3,100 with delayed retirement credits. When the husband passes away, the wife switches to his benefit as a survivor and receives $3,100 for the rest of her life. You gave up a few years of the higher benefit, but you protected the surviving spouse with the maximum possible survivor benefit. This strategy works best when there is a significant gap between the two benefits. Now I want to address the elephant in the room. What if you delay and then you die at 71? What if you give up 5 years of benefits and then you only collect for 3 years before you pass away? That is a real fear, and it is a fair question. Here is my answer. First, Social Security is not just about you. If you are married, it is about your spouse. The survivor benefit protections I have been talking about are worth delaying for even if you personally do not live long. Second, the break-even point for most people is somewhere in the late 70s to early 80s. If you live past that, you come out ahead. And the average life expectancy for someone who makes it to 65 is well into the 80s. Third, this is insurance. You are insuring against the risk of living a long time and running out of money. If you die early, you did not need the insurance. But if you live into your 90s, that higher benefit could be the difference between independence and financial dependence on your children. Here is what I want you to do this week. Step 1. Request your Social Security statement. Go to ssa.gov/myaccount and create an account if you do not have one. Look at your estimated benefits at 62, at full retirement age, and at 70. Write those numbers down. Step 2. Calculate your bridge amount. Figure out how much money you need per year to cover your expenses if you stopped working today. Subtract any other income like a working spouse or part-time work. The remaining amount is what you need to pull from savings each year. Step 3. Run the math. Take your bridge amount and multiply it by the number of years between now and your target Social Security filing age. If that total is less than 30 to 40% of your retirement savings, this strategy is worth serious consideration. If it is more than 50%, you may need to adjust your plan or consider filing earlier. And step 4, talk to someone who understands this. Not a buddy at the golf course, not a Facebook group, a financial advisor or an elder law attorney who specializes in Social Security claiming strategies. One last thing. If this video helped you see a path forward you did not see before, I would appreciate it if you shared it with someone who needs to hear it. This is the kind of decision people make once and live with forever. A couple of extra years of planning can mean a couple $100,000 over a lifetime. I am Whitfield. Knowledge is your best policy. I am Whitfield.